Let me tell you why you're here. You're here because you know something. What you know you can't explain, but you feel it. You felt it your entire life.
Hats.
Brendel, mate, how are you?
I'm in a fluster.
Are you a bit of a fluster, yeah?
I just had to shovel down dinner and run over because I was running late.
You're always chasing.
I'm not always bullshit.
You are always chasing. You're always chasing
No,
your tail.
well, no, but
It's just that you're the second worst chaser tailor in your family. The kids are fine.
Maybe, but I also think that you're overly organized. So,
Anal is
that's
maybe it's the word you're looking for.
That's another way.
Yeah, that's probably true. I like to think of myself as like a laid back, kind of surfer guy. No, I'm not a laid back surfer guy. I'm like a uptight asshole.
Yeah. And I'm the cool one.
So I hear. So I hear.
Anyway, I'm busting for a piss, but I've run in, so we'll just I'll have to go for
it. Are we going to go? Are we going to introduce the guest?
Yeah, we should. Who we got?
So, we got Roger 9000. Now, I was thinking about this. What was my first question going to be? Because there's 1,000 ways we can speak to Roger. But my first question is this: is Roger 9000 a target? And if so, how far through are you?
I don't get that question at all.
Roger 9000. I mean, the ladies listening to the pod, of which there are probably 4, have they been Rogered yet or not?
Yeah.
I was just wondering whether Roger 9000 was a target.
We were actually talking about that today. So Hat's messaged me today because obviously a quick kind of setup to get you on, and he's like, "Oh, you're about to be Rogered.
You're going to get Rogered tonight."
And I said, "I do need a good Rogering."
We'll shut up and let you talk. Hey, mate, how are you?
How you going, mate?
I'm great. It's great to be back with you guys. Bitcoin Alive was fucking alive.
Still alive, but it looks of it's good.
It's just great. I just love the energy that it provided. It's Rogering. It does come up in conversations.
I'm so sorry.
It has an ancient. It's either Scottish or Irish history to Roger being on a boat, and either there was a bloke who used to clean boats, and he would get down on his hands and knees and give the deck a good scrubbing,
a good Rogering.
I think he became the cabin boy because there's something to do with.
Oh, that was what was that? What was that? Captain Pugwash.
Yeah, I think
there was the cartoon, but there was characters like Roger the cabin boy.
Yeah,
Seaman Staines.
Yeah.
It was, who else was there?
Seaman
Staines. Get Roger the cat. Maybe this is a myth and I've just been told it, but I think it's true.
Sure, no, I think it is. It comes from a myth, but it comes from that whole concept of blokes, being out on sea for a number of years, maybe even, and not getting, not being able to see any girls, and so the whole concept of like a what are they called, mermaids? Yeah.
Oh yeah.
But yeah, I think Roger was the bloke that sort of got it, because he was like down on his hands and knees. So it'd be like, well, he's kind of a bit like a Sheila,
I knew this was going to be fun.
Imagination runs wild. So I think that's where Roger comes from. But as for being a target, Hats, I'm all yours, mate.
Awesome, man.
I'll tell you what, I'd like to say, like, Bitcoin Live was amazing, and honestly, without pissing in your pocket, but I am going to, like, meeting you and hanging with you is one of my highlights, man, because when I'd first heard your when I first heard your music, because it's out there, man, like, it's totally out there, and I'm like, man, this guy he's got to be a tripper or he's on acid all the time. I don't know how to take this guy. And then meeting you, like you are like such a sweet, genuine, like honest dude, man. Like you're an absolute legend. So like I'm absolutely stoked to have met you and call you a friend.
Oh, I'm gonna get
Thank you,
emotional. That was nice.
I mean, yeah, people do often think I'm on some kind of a drug, which is kind of nice and kind of like flattering, but also kind of a bit like, well, maybe I'm just a constant, dreamer, and that's I don't know, but I think that's what we are as Bitcoiners as well, aren't we? We're in so many different parts of the brain that people might easily think these guys are freaking woo-woo loopy dudes, and that's but we're probably some of the most grounded people around, I reckon. I mean, I don't know.
You don't see that as a negative though, do you? Like,
not at all. This is what I think Bitcoin is doing. It's bringing back our trust and our love for the imagination. Actually, like because we've been so primed to believing that we can only trust science, we can only believe measurements and figures and statistics, but actually Bitcoin is taking us into a realm of the metaphysical that is truly reliable and truly trustworthy, and that's, I think, a part of the imagination and part of the the dreamlike state that Bitcoin it keeps for us. It's fucking profound, man.
Well, if you have a absolute solid rock, solid foundation to hang your hat on, and then from there feel comfortable to explore other things you maybe previously didn't feel like you had the what's this, the sort of latitude to explore. That's kind of where it's taken us, I think, and I think people, especially people who were earlier, they're probably reaching there sooner, obviously, because just financially they feel able.
Right.
But that as the havings go on, that will be more and more people. So it's going to be very interesting to see where it all goes.
Oh man, I mean, for example, we were just talking about Max Kaiser, and he's and Stacy, they both move into a world of complete confidence and complete love in a way. Max talks about Bitcoin and love, and they both talk about love in a way that is, it's truly expressive of who they feel the most comfortable and the most complete being. And so I think that's a place we're all going to reach as Bitcoiners, because we're all on this self-identification process. I think that's what Bitcoin, it's about self-identity, it's about self-expression, and it's about self-love. I think that's the core balancing factor of Bitcoin. And it's gonna happen to all of us. And that's why, I think I keep coming back to this place of Bitcoin being love. I mean, that's what it felt. That's what Bitcoin Alive felt like to me as well. Just people just sharing and being present for one another, and just loving one another. It's just a great energy. It's just profound stuff.
So let's rewind a little bit. How did that's where you're at now? I assume when you first got involved in Bitcoin. You can tell as much of your backstory as you wish, but I was assuming when you first got involved in Bitcoin, that wasn't your thought process. That's been a progression, right? So, do you know when that happened, and what was it to begin with, and when did that happen, and were you aware of it happening at the time?
Or were you always a dreamer?
Yeah, so I've always been a dreamer. Absolutely. Yeah, definitely. I've always been, I remember as far back as leaving uni and thinking something's not, like, I always wondered why the world is so fucked up, basically. Like the world just doesn't seem right. And so I've always been on this constant quest for finding, I don't know, finding some kind of truth as to why the world is the way it is. But in that pursuit, I felt like I was always diving down rabbit holes. I was always, up for the next conspiracy, oh, maybe this is who's running the world, or maybe this is why the world is the way it is. So I've always been a dreamer in that way. But I actually felt like, ironically, I've always felt like I'm a really grounded, basic, boring person as well. So even though I come across as this sort of weird, sort of, loopy kind of dude, I feel like I'm actually pretty boring, which is a nice grounding kind of feeling. I never feel like the world ever gets too crazy for me. I like, it's always, always feel like I could get crazier for sure.
Can we quickly segue into at Bitcoin Live we had an Airbnb with a whole heap of us. The last, I think, what, two or three nights you stayed at the house, and we all we've been Ubering everywhere, and we took this. Where did we go? We went to Coogee. Anyway, Roger was like, "Oh, everyone can pile into the car." And so all of us pile into this car, 7 of us. So the back seats are like, they've got the thing where it comes down, it's like really tight. And I'm probably I'm 6 foot, but I'm probably the smallest guy out of everybody. Everyone's kind of tall and wide and whatever else. Anyway, so it was hard to cram in the back. But then I think I'm in the middle of the middle seat, and then Roger turns around before we take off and goes, "All right, guys, I should let you know, I've got my own driving style," or something. Is that what it was?
I've got one way.
My own way of driving, and we just went, "Oh, what a great way to start a car trip!"
And do you know what? It was exactly. I thought driving style was pretty decent.
I thought you were going to be more.
Although
extreme.
I did see Brisket giving it a bit of. There's an Audi on your left, Roger.
Yeah. He did. There was one moment where he was slowly kind of merging across into someone else.
Loved it. Just that like, oh, what's going to happen?
Yeah. Holy shit. We'll wait till we're actually buckled in before he tells us that.
I'm actually trying to improve my eyesight, which I thought I should warn you guys. Like my eyesight is it's great while there's good light, but as the day was getting on, I thought I should tell them that actually I'm doing this what's called reduced lens technique. So I should be wearing glasses that technically, like, I should always be wearing glasses, but because I'm doing this reduced lens technique, I've actually reached a place where I don't need to wear glasses anymore. But sometimes, depending on the light, the images I see aren't as clear. So
this is 11:30 in the morning, dude.
What's the reduced lens technique? What's this?
Well, I'm guessing you're taking away your reliance on spectacles and letting your muscles
exactly. You're guessing. What does Roger say?
Yeah. No, that's pretty much it. That's pretty much it, Brenda. You
thanks.
Basically, every time you go to an optometrist, they kind of like screw the sharpness of the lens a bit more, which actually reduces the strength of your muscles, ciliary muscles. Yeah. So every time you go to the optometrist, you're actually you basically developing more and more of a crutch on your glasses, basically.
You're almost encouraging your eyes to become weaker. Is that what you're saying?
Exactly.
Because you're right. I see.
Yeah. So and the only way to basically reverse that is to reduce bit by bit that intensity. So you got this diopter bubble, and you basically you take the you reduce your prescription bit by bit, so that every time you get a new pair of glasses, you're only seeing as clear as that Dr. Bubble. You're actually training your muscles to see better and better.
So basically, we were driving around with Mr. Magoo.
Yeah, so I felt like it didn't come out right though.
I liked it.
That was funny.
Anyway, it was only I needed to warn you, but having said that, you're right. The light was fine, so it was all good.
All right, so do we flip a coin, and do we do music or chocolate? Which way do you want to go? In fact, Roger, Roger, which way do you want to take this? Music or chocolate?
Music or chocolate?
Music or chocolate, yeah.
I've actually been fasting a lot recently. Do you guys do any fasting?
I don't eat breakfast, and I'm conscious of not eating too much during the day. So
okay,
I've never done the water fasting or any of that stuff. I'm interested in it for sure. So,
you want to know? It's somewhat similar, actually. Not really spoken about it, but yeah, somewhat similar. I don't eat in the morning. I'll have a coffee. I try and skip lunches when I can. I'm trying to eat more like biltong and things like that. Trying to cut down my carb intake.
You've been doing that for a while, too.
Yeah, but I'm not one of these like mad. I don't want to call them mad, like crazy
Brisket
people. Brisket. Yeah, like I'm not. I couldn't do that, or at least I don't feel like I could do that, and it's not for me. But So anyway, why do you ask?
Oh yeah, no, I'm day 2.5 of my fast. I really I've been basically increasing the days I fast, and I'm just exploding, man. I love it. Fasting is just the number one health drug, basically. It's just insane how like your mind switches on, your body switches on. You're stimulating human growth hormone, basically, which stimulates, basically enhances your stem cells, right? So you literally start to produce new brain cells. I mean, it's that intense, and in your hippocampus as well. So your memory really increases, and basically because you're not eating, right? Like every time you eat, you're creating this inflammatory response.
Mm-hmm.
So literally by stopping eating, you're creating an anti-inflammatory response, which is insanely beneficial for any kind of, most of the disease we have in the world is basically inflammation, one form or another.
Yeah.
And you can really feel it. Like I've got this problem with my nose. I've got these lumps of, like, you could call them tumors, basically. They're called nasal polyps.
Polyps, yeah.
And they're basically benign tumors, and a tumor is literally a bunch of cells that have sort of congregated and started to deform, and by fasting, you're creating this anti-inflammatory response, and I mean, like, I could hardly get air through my nose for years, and we were talking about this, weren't we? Yeah. So I've been using like 3, 4, 5 day fasts. I've taken it up to 7 days, but you kind of need to factor in like a lot of time to start to refeed yourself, basically, after that. But
so what do you eat? Just water?
So I do. I got my own sort of concoctions.
Oh, that's right. You had a couple of them actually at Bitcoin Live, didn't you?
Stevia.
Yeah. I'm really getting into
apple cider vinegar. Yeah, hell yeah. That's really good for the gut.
Oh, it's incredible stuff. Yeah. I do apple cider vinegar, cayenne pepper, a turmeric, a bit of just regular pepper, salt, and what else do I put in there? Yeah, no, that's pretty much it. Yeah, it's kind of like this yellow bile kind of thing.
Sounds great.
It tastes It tastes
Pretty bad.
But the thing is, when you see, now my hunger has just kind of disappeared after a while. It's this weird thing. I've grown this resilience to fasting where I can fast now for 2-3 days and I don't feel like this is my second day and I'm actually feeling better as I go. It's this weird thing, like up to the third day. Because after about the third day, your muscles start to sort of feel the you start to eat away your muscles. But basically, you're going through this process of autophagy, which is the eating up of dead cells, right? So the strong cells start to eat the dead cells. But obviously, once you take it past a certain amount of days, you start to chew away on your own muscle, which is
I think I remember Brisket talking about that. It's almost like a training in a way that your body actually, the hunger pains go, and like you just kind of become this efficient kind of machine, I suppose.
Do you mind me asking, like when you first started, like, firstly, can you tell me how long you've been doing it, and then secondly, can you tell me when you started doing it, if you don't mind talking about it? Was there an issue that you were trying to address, or was it just something you're aware of and you wanted to give a go to?
So I went basically all this started from my stomach. I had this problem in my stomach. I was getting acid reflux all the time. And then I developed this thing called a hiatus hernia. So I went gluten-free and that basically fixed that. And then I found, and the thing was that I started seeing what do you call those guys? A nutritionist, right? And they said, you should try going gluten-free. And because I didn't get the information from a regular doctor, I thought, well, maybe there's whatever problems I come up with in the future, I need to work them out on my own, basically. And that's when I realized, oh man, I've got this problem with my nose. I never breathe through my nose properly. So I thought, well, I've got to just try to work it out on my own. And man, I went through so many different, I mean, how it's like, how it's just like, it's taken me years to come to any kind of conclusion about my nose. And finally, because I'd done a lot of research, and I started seeing a neurologist, nutritionalist who recommended fasting. And he initially recommended intermittent fasting and the ketogenic diet. So I started intermittent fasting maybe, we're going back maybe 3 years now. And so I probably did that for a year and a half or so. And that was amazing. I just felt like I was really improving myself by intermittent fasting. But I'd never actually tried a full day fast until maybe a year and a half into the intermittent fasting.
So do you or did you have just a natural kind of distrust of doctors?
Oh yeah.
And before Bitcoin?
Before Bitcoin, yeah.
And where do you think that kind of stemmed from?
Well, because they basically they diagnosed me with this problem with my stomach, and they said, "Here, mate, take this pill. It's the only option." And I was like, well, "Okay, well, how long for?" And they said, "Well, for the rest of your life." And I was like, "No." And then I looked at the actual recommendation for how long you're supposed to take this thing for. 3 months.
Is it like Nexium or something like that?
Yeah, like a proton pump inhibitor. It was omeprazole. But I took a whole pile of different ones, Laraprazole and Pariet and all kinds of shit. And that fucked my gut completely.
Yeah.
I couldn't absorb anything and that's, I think, what led to the gluten intolerance and the dairy intolerance and all the freaking intolerances after that, I reckon. Because my gut just like, I was just creating this autoimmune response every time I ate something. So yeah, so I'd actually tried essentially the carnivore diet, maybe even, yeah, it was before I recognized Bitcoin. Yeah, we're talking, maybe even as far back as maybe 8 years ago, something like that.
I just think with doctors now, it's got to the point where you're absolutely right. It's like the prescription of a pill is like the only conversation you have in the doctor. I don't really go to the doctor anymore. I've kind of given up in a way. Because it feels like the only conversation you have is, okay, what is the pill to fix this? Unless you got a broken leg or something, they're very good at that, right? Or if you want to go, heart transplant, they're good at that. But when you actually have got something that's a bit more, I don't know, a bit more difficult to
or chronic or
like and it's they reach straight for a pill. Now I don't know whether that's, I mean, maybe it can give a quick fix to people, and maybe that helps immediately, and maybe it can be, but it is that sort of fiat thinking that not long-term thing. It's not looking for, okay, maybe this guy has some underlying thing, maybe, what is causing this in the first place? Can we look at his lifestyle or that kind of thing? But nobody wants the hard answer. Like nobody wants you have to do a 5K walk every day, sir, or you have to stop eating your crisps, or you have to, nobody wants that answer, so they kind of stop giving it. But now they reach for the pill.
Do you know what though? I think that is possibly the case for a lot of doctors, but not all of them. There are some doctors still.
I'm sure that's true.
Yeah, that do want to actually get to underlying causes and address them. However, and I guess again it comes back to incentives. If you can just go script pill next, please. Script pill next, please. You get more through the door, more money, and
doctors are inundated. I mean, think of I've had a few friends who became doctors, and they're just like, I kind of, once upon a time it might have been cool to become a doctor because you felt a sense of achievement or whatever. But today I just think that you might as well just be an office worker, because there's nothing unique or special really. You're not saving lives anymore. In fact, you're keeping people unhealthy. I mean, that's kind of what this whole pill thing seems to just be, producing, is just more and more unhealthy people, which is kind of not the point, really. But anyway.
I think there's the fear of lawsuits across all industry, particularly in health. Like nobody wants to do anything that causes a problem, so they just, okay, well, if they the
Band-Aid solution.
Like if it's the accepted government advice, then if we give that, we can't be in trouble. So they're doing the thing that avoids personal problem rather than thinking, let's get to the source of this guy's problem.
And it's just short-term thinking. It's just that fiat mind. How can we pump as many people through the system and make as much money as possible? And at the end of the day, that's why it's remained, because the health industry would die without it. So it just makes sense in every way. The only losers are the patients, and we've got enough of those around.
So if the population generally, I mean, I think Bitcoiners more so than most, but if the population generally are losing trust in their trusted individuals, maybe your scientists, your doctors, your people that in once upon a time you genuinely felt, oh yes, those people know. How do we stop people from then grasping it and believing anything that just happens to be the opposite? Like, so let's say it's Brendo and myself, right? And I have an opinion that he finds abhorrent, so therefore he probably sure does anyway, right? But he's nodding away. But then you also have an opinion that's not a good opinion, but it's the opposite of mine. So how do we stop him just immediately just assuming that what you're saying is correct, and still to take his like critical mind and thinking about your idea and justifying it and not just evaluating it on its merits.
Yeah, I think people have to start respecting the sorry guys. Can we cut that bit out?
Sure, man. It's all good. Don't stress. It's all good. Take a drink. It's all good.
I reckon it's about people respecting each other enough to allow one another to just walk their own path, because like your own opinion about your health is valid. It's absolutely valid, and you should have every right in the world to follow your path in how you perceive, whatever you perceive is beneficial for your health. So, I think that's why people are taking their health into their own hands. That's why people are taking education into their own hands. That's why people are taking their money into their own hands. It's like we just need to develop the confidence to say, well, actually, you do you and I'll do me. And that's I think that's where we're headed. But yeah, there's a massive contingency of people who still say, no, but the government regulation states this, so we have to do this. I mean, this is kind of where you're going, right? Like,
yeah.
We need to do this to be together, to be consistent, to be, coherent on this. Otherwise, we'll fucking die of some, virus, right? So, but even though the whole world seemed to lock down at some point, there was still this room for you to just go, you know what? Fuck that. I'm going to just do what I want to do. And here's the thing, right? The power, the power that they have is in our deception. And the power we have is in our perception. Right? So the more deception they can create, the more power they have. Whereas the more we see clearly, which is why laser eyes is so important, I think, the more perception we have of our true, and it's just our true perception for ourselves. It can be anything, but as long as it's true to yourself, then the more power you have. So I think power really resides in your own perception. So yeah, getting to your point, man, like I think people respecting other people's direction is where things are going to start to improve in that respect.
And it's just, I think, when somebody lives their life in a way that's very different to your own, it's confronting, right? We're all, I mean, that's sort of fight or flight stuff, isn't it? It's like the reason if you're afraid of something, you'll react, and that's how we survived, right? But it's as long as the person who you see or observe having a very different type of life to yours isn't negatively impacting your life in any way, you can just let them get on and be. We don't have to be worried about that. It's fine. I think maybe if we have this thing, and I'm sure there's people screaming, this is going to be a Bitcoin podcast. Maybe if we have this thing that we have this central belief in our money, or this Bitcoin thing at the middle, and we all can share this one belief eventually. I mean, I'm not suggesting that's coming tomorrow, but we all have at least enough in common to go, oh, well, that guy's also a Bitcoiner. I mean, I even find myself doing it now with when you go along to Bitcoin Alive or something. The guys that are super different to me, but I'm like, oh, but he's a Bitcoiner, so I can listen to his point of view. Just as simple as that.
That's it, man. It's so simple. It's so simple that it begins with, I mean, what kind of value you place, because at the end of the day, Bitcoin is a moral system just as much as it is a monetary system. It's just as, it's the most inclusive thing we've ever experienced. And that, by nature of the fact of how inclusive it is, it truly becomes complete. It defines our morals as well, because if you believe that I should be free to transact the way I want to transact, and I believe you should be free, then that is an agreement. I mean, Knut says that all the time, right? Bitcoin is just an agreement. And at that fundamental level, if we're all agreeing, then we're all coming together. And that's all the fucking world needs right now. I mean, it's so crazy how fucking weird the world is, because no one can agree on shit. What's a woman? What's a man? What's a fucking mosquito? Like, there's no agreement anymore, and so the world goes to fucking hell, right? It's crazy.
Like we all like we've always all had very different opinions. It's just that maybe we live in a world now where you can very easily get your opinion known. Like, you got a Facebook profile or an Instagram page or whatever it might be, and there's things coming at people 24 hours a day. You can wake up in the middle of the night and find out what somebody's opinion is, and you're like, well, I disagree with that opinion, so you're immediately triggered. Whereas maybe previously we all had all these very different opinions, we just didn't know it so much as well.
Yeah. And we were okay going with the crowd, because in a way we didn't, I don't know, did we feel like we were individual so much? Maybe in the past we had this feeling of the tribe more. We had this feeling of, well, I'm part of this nation, I'm under this flag. Now all that stuff is just slipping away. We're all becoming part of the one place, which is just the world, right? We're all becoming, Nozomi likes to say on the podcast, like, we're a unified global culture in a way, and it's homogenizing, which is kind of a bit paradoxical, because we are so different, and yet we are still finding ourselves homogenizing, which is like kind of a bit scary in a way. And maybe that's why there's so much conflict as well. It's like, well, I'm not fucking like you, I'm not fucking like him. So there's that going on. But at the same time, we all know McDonald's, we all know Starbucks, we all know all this other shit that's been sort of implanted upon us. I mean, think of the dudes in China that just have to deal with freaking, losing their sort of culture. I mean, that's what's going on. And you think of so many of these places that have just been, where Western culture has just been imposed upon these people. And it's like, well, hang on, what happened to the way we used to do things? But, there's pros and cons. There's pros and cons. So, yeah, in a way, I kind of forgotten what. I hate that.
Well, it's why we travel, right? It's why I travel. We travel because you travel to see something different. You don't travel to see what's you can see it outside your house, right? Why would you do it? There's no point.
Right. And I fully believe that Bitcoin is bringing back that culture, the real the real individuation process, right? Because people, well, firstly, Bitcoin is freedom, right? It's free speech. And that free speech then leads to freedom of expression. And then freedom of expression leads to the recognition of your identity. You then look at yourself because you've expressed yourself freely and independently and truthfully. You can then look at yourself like a mirror. And I always like to think of Bitcoin like a mirror, because you then see yourself as a reflection of who you really are. And that's the identification process. That's really, that then leads to unconditional love, I think. But that identification process is what enables people to say, well, that's really me, and I really identify with that. And I'm comfortable with that, and I'm cool with that. I don't need to be anything else, that's imposed upon me. I'm just going to be me now. And that's the freedom that Bitcoin brings. It's so fucking powerful. And I don't think, man, like we're right at the tip of the iceberg. I feel like it's just going to provide such a revolution around the world. It's going to be fucking insane.
Totally agree. Have there been moments for you with that, looking at that the mirror you talk about? Have there been moments from you that have been confronting, like you going, "Oh, that's who I am," or "This is what I think of that," or your opinion has changed, flipped 180 because you saw something one way, and then all of a sudden you looking at your actions because you're seeing them, you're like, "Oh, I don't just talking, I'm just full of shit," that kind of thing.
Well, my fear factors have dropped away, man. Like I used to be I mean, maybe as a musician, I have confronted a lot of stuff. So in a way, like fear of expressing myself and fear of acceptance from other people, that sort of stuff, you sort of get shit tons of that as a performing artist. I think you're constantly having to look at yourself or think of yourself from the public perspective kind of thing. But yeah, in terms of looking into myself, feeling like I'm not able, or feeling like I'm a failure, or feeling like I'm not good enough, or maybe this isn't for me, or any of that dark stuff. I'd kind of been through a fair bit of that already as well. So maybe the thing for me really was the ultimate recognition that I'm good enough. That's really what Bitcoin taught me, that actually you're okay, man. Like don't stress. Like this is the path you're supposed to be on, and everything's okay. So that's the real solidifying moment for me. I think that Bitcoin, it enabled me it kind of informs me as an artist as well, which I never had in the fiat culture. It's another thing. I just never knew what the fuck I was trying to say. I knew I was trying to say something in music.
Yeah.
But I had no idea what the fuck it was. And Bitcoin just made it all so clear.
How comfortable are you on stage? Like, is that something?
So that's another thing. Yeah, that's another thing that transformed with Bitcoin as well. It was getting better already, but with Bitcoin, because it informed me so much, I felt like, and now I really have something to say. I really have a real. I've always wanted to have meaning behind my music. Like I just feel like so much art generally is kind of a bit art for art's sake. And I know we have to explore as artists, but I've always wanted to have a grounding in my music in some capacity. And I know, I mean, some people might listen to my music and just go, "What the fuck, dude? You're just off the fucking wall. Like, how has that got any meaning?" But I could probably try and interpret. Not that I think art should be interpreted, but Bitcoin it gives me a sense of grounding in how I explain my music as well. So I actually feel pretty comfortable because of that as well. So yeah, to your question, man, like I used to get so nervous because I didn't know what the fuck I was really doing, why I was doing it, who I was doing it for, and really what I was trying to say with what I was doing. And now all that's changed with Bitcoin. I've got an immediate audience. I've got an immediate message, and I just feel like I'm on the path so much clearer as an artist with Bitcoin.
Do you want to be playing to Bitcoin crowds, or do you just want to be playing to crowds?
Oh, great question, man. I have no idea. In a way, I feel like, I mean, as Bitcoiners, we all feel like we're going to move into a hyper Bitcoinized world at one day. So I hope and pray that I'm just doing the work of Satoshi in some capacity, and that people will recognize what Satoshi has done, and they'll just resonate with that. But at the moment, I make music for Bitcoiners. Like, I feel like they're my brothers and sisters. So I have to be aware of them all the time. And like, yeah, sure, the fiat world is orders of magnitude bigger than the Bitcoin world still, and maybe for fucking decades, right? Like, I mean, we kind of don't know, and
it's frustrating, right? But that's part of the journey. That's the journey, right? That is it.
That is. So I feel like I never had this kind of direction and attention and love ever in the fiat world. I don't know. Obviously, some artists do, so they're like, well, fuck Bitcoin. I don't give a shit what Bitcoin represents. I'm getting all my love from this world, and it's great for them, but I sure as hell never had any love from the fiat world.
But
really.
like it's the same as a banker, right? It's the same as a, right. Why would a banker want to understand Bitcoin? Why would they?
100%.
Life's going well.
Yeah.
Like, does it? I think like Brenda was a muso as well, right? So you still play? So does this inspire you to start again, or like not start again? I don't mean like look for an audience, but just play again, play more. I mean, I know family and things gonna go over. Sorry, I hope you don't mind, Roger. Just
but what resonates with me from what Roger is saying is not finding an audience, but finding a purpose, or finding inspiration for actually songwriting. So I've always been a guy that, like, I learned guitar, and I was never like a covers guy. I never really learned covers. I just tinkered in my own songs and just sing a tune over some chords and all that kind of stuff, and write stuff. And I always struggled to write. So it's you got Elton John and was it Tim Rice or whatever actually wrote
So true.
but it's always, I don't know, I'm always impressed with like musicians and artists that write for a purpose. So you've got your Billy Braggs and your Dylans and stuff that with a political message or something to really try to convey something. I think that is
100%.
super important, as much as, like, I love a chord progression. I love great melodies and harmonies. But if there isn't actually a content or a message there, it doesn't hit home.
You just need to care about it doesn't matter what it is, you just need to care about something enough to write or play about.
And it's those songs
purpose
and those songs that actually, if it hits home with people, that's when they actually they actually have value.
I said this to you, Roger, when down at on the night after you did your music thing, right? And so we hadn't met before, and I was aware of you though. So, and I'd watched a couple of things. I was like, oh, wow, that's a bit much for me, genuinely. But then we came, and I was like, oh, Roger's going to play. I was like, okay. And I'm sitting there on a stool, and I'm thinking, and I said this to you, just like feel less on. This was talking to myself. Feel less uncomfortable. Lean into your weird, and just see if you enjoy it. And then, like 2 minutes later, I'm like, the uncomfortable went away, and I'm just like, everybody's just enjoying their self, and like they're just enjoying their night. And I was like, oh, this is fucking amazing, and I had a great time.
Oh, it was great.
And it was just the neighbors might have thought it was a bit much because it was fucking loud, but it was and I just like, if you're just willing to just forget your own apprehensions and just lean into something else just a little bit more, it's amazing where the other end you might come out.
Even tonight, right? I'm cooking dinner and like quickly to try to get over here, and I'm as you do, you cook dinner and I'm scrolling through Twitter, and I don't know who posted something about Bitcoin music, and I'm pretty sure it was Brisket. Brisket posted you like Satoshi set me free. So I'm like, fuck yeah. Okay. So I put that on.
While you're cooking?
Yeah, well, I'm cooking. I'm just going, Satoshi set me free. just fucking jiving to it, man. It was awesome.
Wave Lake. We got to talk Wave Lake or Fountain or something. Are you starting to publish to
Yeah.
I mean, do you care about earning from it, or do you not care about earning from it? Do you just want to perform? Or if you could earn as well, that would be great. Or like, how do you feel about that?
That's
Or
such a great question, man. I have literally never even thought about it. What's the guy's name? Well, there's a couple of guys. There's Richard. He does Bitcoin. He does a lot of video and Bitcoin tunes.
Richard James?
Richard James, yeah.
The
Maybe.
petrodollars and
Yeah.
what was the other two? I always forget.
Yeah,
Sorry,
yeah.
Richard.
Yeah.
Hard money.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And the other guy, I've forgotten his name, and he talks a lot about value for value.
Joe Martin. Yeah, we had Joe on. He was a super interesting. He's a young guy. And he is a switched on young guy.
Oh, absolutely. He's playing at Bitcoin Adventure as well.
Oh, nice.
Awesome.
So in Somerset. Yeah. I mean, I think that's going to be the Glastonbury of Bitcoin. I literally think, like I played there last year, and this year there's going to be like 4 or 5 other, musicians around, either making music about Bitcoin or, Bitcoin supporters. So, and yeah, Joe's going to be one of them. And, value for value, I actually don't know enough about it, but as far as I can tell, you basically just make your stuff available and just say, here's my address. And people just go, yeah, man, a bit like the Radiohead experiment, right? Like, which was, and I think they made more than they could have ever hoped to have made from that kind of experiment. Yeah. But at the end of the day, that's a really good question, man. And I don't know, like, I've never made money from music, so I actually don't know what that feels like. And I don't know if
and could it take away some of the enjoyment as well if you start to become feeling it like it's a job, right?
Sure. And I don't know what that entails. I know that I love what I do, and I don't think, having getting value back from it, like the Satoshi 73 thing, right? Like that was just like, in a way.
You tell that story for people that don't know it.
Oh man, like I was playing in at the Bush Bash in Beechworth, and I basically I announced this song. I'm about to play this song. It's called Satoshi Set Me Free, and James. I hope you don't. I don't think I can call him James. Yeah. It's on the T-shirt anyway. So he basically said, Satoshi 73. Well, can we hear Satoshi 1 through 72 first?
Was he taking the piss, or was he actually?
No. Yeah, and Brisket like burst out laughing. He was just like, he said Satoshi set me free, mate. And it was one of those moments, I think, where he was genuine and everyone just erupted in laughter. And I think we mentioned it again the next day, and people were like, man, that's just become a meme. Like,
I mean, so the only reason we know about this is because we're all down in this house and a Bitcoin Alive, and there are 3 guys sitting around the table wearing this Satoshi 73 T-shirt, and I had no idea what the relevance is, and that was the story. I'm like, that's just gold. I want a T-shirt. I don't know how I get a T-shirt. Who does the T-shirts? I want one. I'll buy a T-shirt. I'll part with Sats for that T-shirt. It's brilliant.
I'm definitely making more of those. Yeah.
Oh, is that your T-shirt? All right, I'll buy a T-shirt, Roger.
So, I mean, the funny thing is, isn't it, that I feel completely like, I don't like, that's a value for value thing too, right? So if I make more T-shirts, people are like, come on, man, I want to give you something for it. So it's reaching this place now where it's like, well, if I put a figure on something, then maybe that's actually what it's worth. And maybe that's what people, people want to reward something that they have found value for. So, and that's this whole value for value thing, right? I think that's the way things are going to move, which is epic. I mean, I love performing. I actually was really worried that I would, not worried, but because I've been performing for a while, I guess I thought, well, maybe my days of performing are over. Like maybe I'm not, maybe I'm going to want to just do Bitcoin or just do chocolate or just do something apart from music. But actually, Bitcoin has just fueled my love for creating and performing even more. So, yeah, I think it's always going to be a part of my expression. Yeah, for sure.
Well, should we move to chocolate?
Sure. Let's move to chocolate.
Tell us about chocolate, mate.
Oh, mate.
Actually, before you do, should you tell your story of rocking up?
So I told it on the Bitcoin Alive.
Oh, did you? Do it again.
Very briefly. I got caught up in the next day speaking to my uncle and a couple of guys, and went back out to the pub. Everybody's gone. Got a message from you to say, bring back beer. We're all back at the house, bring back beer. So I went to the bottle, got the beer, and I'm thinking I'm walking in as a legend.
Like a Chad over your shoulder.
I was ready for like the high five and everything. Not a single noise. I genuinely didn't think there was anybody in the house. I was like, oh. Anyway, walked in and there's whatever there was, 10, 12, 14 grown men sitting around the kitchen table making chocolate in silence. And I was like, wow, this is not what I expected. Lean into your weird.
Yeah.
Roger, what were you doing and why were you doing it?
What I loved about that moment was the excitement of grown men in that way. It was
totally.
It was so beautiful, and it made me think, wow, man, like this is real. Like it was just a sort of pipe dream in my head, or maybe I'll try and get people to make chocolate, and maybe that could be cool, But actually seeing how the creative process of people actually really generated this excitement, that was just the coolest thing. I was like, wow, like it's not only keeping people excited, but they're getting more and more excited with their own creation process. And that was what actually I learned from that. And that was just that, like I did actually do one in Beechworth, but it was just with James and Isha. So it's literally just two people. It's a very different thing. And I think every time I do it, it's going to be a completely different thing as well, which I'm really excited about as well. So this creation thing, because at the end of the day, like I think the creative process is what people are going to become more and more, like they're going to want that more and more when they go to some kind of an event, right? So like whether it's music or whatever it happens to be, I think people want to feel like they're part of that creation process, and that can happen with music. I don't know if you've seen that guy who does. He basically gets the crowd to sing to him. It's like a choir.
Yeah, I think Jacob Collier, or he's a young guy. Yeah. Is it like Bobby McFerrin? Bobby McFerrin. Oh shit, what does he sing? Don't worry, be happy. I was
going to say that.
Yeah.
I was right.
Like, he's done a similar thing, but yeah, I think the new guy is Jacob Collier does a lot of it. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. I mean, I feel like as Bitcoin enters our life more and more, we become, well, we realize that we're actually all creators. We're all creators in some capacity. And some people call themselves artists because that's what they want to concentrate their whole entire output on. But actually we're all artists, really. We're all creators, and And I think that because Bitcoin drives this individuation process within us, we're all actually looking like hats, man. The way you did the chocolate workshop
I apologize.
was fucking phenomenal. And I was like, I loved it, man. I absolutely loved it. And everyone else was sort of like, look at this dude.
Look at hats to fuck with.
That is exactly what happened. And but the more people did that, the more in me I was like, nah, fuck them. I'm gonna show them. I'm gonna do this. I'm gonna do worse and worse. I'm gonna get worse and worse and worse. And the only one who knew was Mitch, who saw me. I was sneaking whiskey into my bowl under the table and everything. I mean, and to be fair, Mitch was very good about it, but he was like trying to keep it quiet. But yeah, but it was just. But you're right. Everybody who was doing it in a different way. I mean, okay, I was a bit of a tool with it, but everybody was doing it in a different way, and everybody was doing something.
My chocolate looked really shit, turned out okay. Mitchie's looked amazing.
Oh, I mean, some of them were really like genuinely.
Yours looked really good because it looked really good. But then you you went rogue and put your whiskey in the damn thing, a weirdo.
So you and I are you and I am going to come along. Are going to do. Are we doing this? Can we talk? Can we say this?
Let's do it, man. Yeah, let's
chocolate
do it.
workshop with a group of ladies from somewhere. What's
happening? Wellness women.
A wellness
they're
group.
Called I think they're called the Wellness Collective. I'm pretty sure.
Wellness Collective.
Yeah.
I'm not fully sure what I bring to this equation, but I'm coming.
Oh, mate.
You're going to be at the door so they can't leave.
Yeah. Probably bouncer.
Just you being there, man. It's I think the connection between Bitcoin and chocolate is like, look, for a non-Bitcoiner or for a normie, Bitcoin is a difficult concept, right, to begin with. But connecting it with chocolate and love and all that other essentially woo-woo stuff is just, it could be just too much for people. So I think this is another step into the wilderness, man, because I know that it works with Bitcoiners now, but trying to do a Bitcoin chocolate making workshop with normies, that I don't have any clue how that's going to go down. They'd be like, "Oh, fucking Bitcoin's going to kill the environment, mate," and all that kind of stuff. And so it could be
a car crash. It could be, but that's okay, right? That's okay. I'm warning you now. I'm bringing props, and I'm not telling you what they are.
Oh dear!
Great, perfect, man. Yeah. Because
no, they're not hats. They're not hats.
Because
really, I'm not telling you either.
Oh, bullshit.
I mean, I'll send you a link to the website because I've actually I've set out a website of the chocolate making workshop.
This is BitChock Rocks.
Yeah, BitChock Rocks. Yeah,
shout it out, man. You go shout it. Don't just send it to me. Send it to tell people.
I'll tell. Yeah. So basically, I've created this website. It's about the BitChock Rocks workshop, which is essentially a chocolate making workshop. But BitChock Rocks is also, because I started making Bitcoin chocolate, and I actually really, really love making chocolate. It's freaking, we can get into all that, why I love it and the self-identity and all that kind of stuff. But essentially, people who I gave it to were just like, man, this tastes actually pretty good. Like, you should sell this for Bitcoin, dude. Like, I mean, Bitcoiners are going to love it. So it initially started as, just making Bitcoin chocolate because, why not, And I went to a couple of meetups and they just disappeared. Like, people were like, man, where's that chocolate gone? Like, we want to buy that shit, So, but then I started realizing, as much as I love the chocolate I make, it's a version of me and what I love. Everyone else is going to have a different take on what tastes good to them. And I just thought, actually, well, I was thinking there are so many of these satellite events going on around conferences.
Mm-hmm.
And I thought, why not actually why not see if I can, make chocolate at one of these conferences? But the thing was, like, when you say let's make chocolate at a conference, people think, mate, you're going to need a freaking industrial kitchen for that. Like, how can you just make chocolate at a conference? But actually, I mean, as you guys have seen now, it's actually pretty simple to make chocolate. It's like literally 3 ingredients and a fridge, and that's, it's
and
so
not
so
whiskey.
No, yeah, there's no whiskey needed.
Like, I think Brisket put just a little bit in his.
I was really disappointed when I saw him doing that. I'm really disappointed at how many mentions Brisket's had in this pod. But yeah, he did start. He's putting whiskey in his at the end. I was like, that's my idea. Stop stealing my idea. But no, it was just fun. It was just
Yeah,
weird and fun.
yeah.
It was good.
Yeah.
And you walk away. Worst case scenario, you walk away at the end of the day with a bunch of good tasting chocolate.
That's it.
That's it. That's the worst thing that can happen to you.
That's the worst thing that can happen. Yeah, and I guess I had no idea of how powerful cacao was. It's the actual properties. Again, I think cacao it offers the same balance in the world that Bitcoin offers. It literally balances you, not only from a chemical perspective, but an emotional perspective. Like, literally, it's filled with antioxidants, and antioxidants are basically balancing. It's a balancing kind of food. Like, you basically got these free radicals running around your body that are looking to be balanced, and so they start, stealing electrons from other compounds, and that's what creates this oxidative stress, basically. And antioxidants basically balance that free radical out. So the more antioxidants in your food, basically, the more balanced your body's going to be. Essentially, this thing of homeostasis is what that's all about. And chocolate has one of the highest amounts of antioxidants. It's filled with this stuff called tryptophan, and I love talking about the chemical, all these neurotransmitters that get fired off in your brain when you eat chocolate. It's just insane. You got basically all of your feel good hormones get triggered when you eat chocolate. You got, like, serotonin gets triggered by this tryptophan, which is actually an amino acid, which is why I like to call it liquid meat, right? Because chocolate is just liquid meat.
Mate,
And
sorry,
then
buddy. Sorry, mate.
Sorry.
We're literally about to get cut off. We're going to have to.
Sure.
Let me call you back. Oh, there's no way I can edit that.
We'll come back. I'm really not happy.
Yeah.
Because our cheapness cut Roger off in his stream of consciousness. And in the 5 minutes we have to buffer that video, you have been telling me that I am the rabbit. In Winnie the Pooh, you consider me to be the rabbit.
No. Let's go back.
Like, nobody likes the rabbit.
I said, oh, maybe I'm Eeyore. And you're like, no, I'm Eeyore. And I went, no, you're rabbit.
And then we decided you were probably Piglet.
I'm Piglet.
Roger, who are you?
What is it about Winnie the Pooh? Yeah. I don't mind.
You got to be Tigger. No, Roger's Tigger. Right?
I'll be a tiger, 100%.
That's the best. Well, maybe that's probably the best.
Tigger's the coolest.
Everybody wanted to be Tigger, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, no one wants to be a fucking bear with his fucking ass showing.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know what it is about Winnie the Pooh. Like, just the name. But anyway, it took off.
Winnie the Pooh.
Anyway, back to chocolate. Sorry, mate.
Right.
Honey goes to chocolate. No,
one thing I was also saying was that when it cut off, I was like, well, I really enjoyed the way you presented that little workshop for us and the way that you did the whole Bitcoin and chocolate analogy. So please continue, because it was fascinating.
Okay. Okay. Yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, chocolate, I mean, yeah, Bitcoin and chocolate are just perfectly delivered for humanity, and they perfectly deliver balance for humanity, I think. And uh, I don't know how this has been sort of missed by, but I think it. This also comes down to this problem that sugar has infiltrated chocolate, and sugar has made chocolate the evil, not evil, but the kind of the undesirable thing. Whereas the chocolate or the cacao actually is like a superfood, whereas sugar is the complete opposite of that. And maybe that there always needed to be that kind of opposites attract kind of thing going on there. But I think the balance that Bitcoin brings to humanity is it's basically the same kind of balance that cacao brings to humanity. So Bitcoin is this it's because we're humans, we live in this dualistic world where we have ups and downs, we have positives and negatives, we have males and females, we have life and death. And Bitcoin it embodies that dualistic thing perfectly. Bitcoin is rules without rulers, and it's chaos and order, it's peace and it's revolution, right? So recognizing that we're attracted to this duality of life as humans, it's actually, funnily, it was seen by the ancient Mayans like millennia ago, that chocolate was this balancing thing in the world. And I can get into the mythology of how that came about, but from just a simple perspective, like chocolate is literally, it's bitter and it's sweet, it's dark and it's light, and it's powder and it's fat as well. So it's this unification of opposites that is so perfectly embodied. And the making of chocolate is kind of it's an alchemical process. I mean, it is a chemical process, but it's actually an internal process as well, because as people that do chocolate making, in this workshop, you find out that it's yourself that's being poured into the chocolate. And so the chocolate's kind of like a representation of you, very much like Bitcoin. Your Bitcoin is you. It's a representation of you. And how you choose to use it is you. And chocolate's exactly the same. When you create that chocolate, you're creating a representation of yourself. And actually, when you consume your chocolate, you're kind of consuming a part of yourself. And in alchemy, that's kind of seen as the snake that eats itself, which is a really profound concept, because the snake is kind of dying a little bit to itself, but it's also feeding itself. So it's also nourishing itself. And that's that beautiful union of opposites that alchemy is so sort of famous for. And that's what happens in Bitcoin, and that's what happens in chocolate. With Bitcoin, when you consume your Bitcoin, when you use your Bitcoin, because you are your Bitcoin, you're kind of consuming yourself. And when you spend your Bitcoin, you're nourishing yourself with whatever you're spending it on, but you're also kind of dying a little bit to yourself. So again, it's that snake that eats its tail. It's an alchemical symbol that it's actually it's part of life. That's the union of opposites. That's the duality of life. So I don't know, Bitcoin, chocolate, they just seem to really be about balance. Yeah.
So from a parent, I'm thinking of a person that's maybe listening, never considered the chocolate aspect before.
Yeah,
what you're saying is, let's say you've managed to, stack. Let's get very practical for a second, right? So you've managed to
yeah,
stack 1,000,000 sats or whatever it is, and you've
yeah,
hodled as long as you can hodl,
yeah,
and then the value has gone up, and then you've so essentially what you have stacked is you've been patient, so you've given away your time, right?
exactly,
And you're
exactly.
consuming. When you get to the point where like it's going, I'm going to spend something. I'm going to get some value from all this hard work I've put in. That is you
Yeah,
then consuming your hard work. So you consuming you, and that's what you're
yeah,
saying about the chocolate too.
yeah,
You're
yeah, yeah,
producing it
yeah,
yourself. It's your own process. It's you do it. It's very unique to each individual. And then, yeah, as you say, you then eat the
yeah,
chocolate.
yeah.
Practically.
And as we were doing, like you kind of you taste yourself, like you get a reflection of yourself at that moment in time.
Mm-hmm.
And that's a really powerful, that's like the medicine for yourself, because you can kind of gauge where you're at, and you also accept where you're at as well at that point. And it's the same with Bitcoin. You kind of, whatever you whatever that nourishment comes from, however you choose to spend your Bitcoin, it becomes a way of reflecting where you're at. And not only do you see where you're at, but you accept where you're at. I think that's the darkness that we're all looking for in ourselves. Alan Watts calls it the element of irreducible rascality. Jung calls it the shadow, right? It's all about accepting whatever situation is at the time for you, and in that acceptance, you then, I don't know, it becomes this basis for you to then move forward. Like, I think that's a really profound, progressive thing. You embody it, and so you affirm it somehow. And that's the whole cacao process of the cacao ceremony is all about affirmation and acceptance in that way too. And that's, Bitcoin literally is a balancing phenomenon in exactly the same way as cacao is a balancing phenomenon. The ancient Mayans basically believed that cacao, which was gifted to them by the gods, the gods literally bled onto this cacao tree and created the cacao fruit, which accounts for why all the different colors of the cacao fruit, browns and reds and yellows and oranges. And so that fruit actually became completely sustaining for them when they couldn't find animals, and when they were at war, for example, they couldn't go and hunt. So they literally lived off this, what I like to think of as liquid meat. And because it was gifted to them, they kind of felt like it sort of bypassed nature in a way, and it didn't require violence. It didn't require acquisition by killing other tribes or whatever. And so it was very very much it came into the world in a very balancing, peaceful way. And they actually think of cacao ceremonies as harmonizing ceremonies in a really similar way, I think, to the way Bitcoin enters the world, through mining. It's proof of work, but it's very much a seamless entering of the world. Like, you don't go to war to acquire Bitcoin. In fact, Bitcoin, it literally takes violence and makes it obsolete. So the way Bitcoin comes into the world is really similar to the way cacao comes into the world. And it harmonizes humans and nature. It harmonizes humans with humans as well, which is, I think, just a profound phenomenon. I love this stuff. It freaking tastes great as well.
Is this two? Yeah. Is this two of your worlds colliding, Or like, or when was or when did you think you had this realization of the similarities between the two?
Yeah, that's a great question too, man.
Keep telling. We'll clip that and put that in the show notes. Sorry, man, I'm joking.
I think I think Bitcoin makes you a better person, right? It makes you a more honest, healthy, adjusted person in the world. And so you go on a health journey, like you go on a journey of self-identification, but also self-reflection. And I think health is one of those at the very beginning there where you sort of think, well, am I doing the best for me here? Like, am I consuming the best things for me? And so, I meat was one of the first things. Cruciferous vegetables, and spirulina, like that's another superfood. Turmeric. Actually, cacao was pretty low down the list when I realized, holy shit, this stuff is like, it's like gold dust. And I didn't realize how fucked up it was by sugar, because even just a little bit of sugar in your chocolate, it ruins the whole fucking effect. Like sugar literally is the opposite of chocolate. Like chocolate opens up your cells, right? It's full of magnesium, full of potassium, which opens the cell. And then on top of that, it's got like iron and copper and zinc and selenium, amazing minerals that the cell can then absorb. The very opposite happens with sugar. Sugar basically creates this inflammatory effect, which triggers insulin, which means, it's insulin needs to get the sugar out of your blood, right? After about 1 teaspoon of sugar. So what happens is over time, this insulin, more and more insulin gets secreted by the pancreas. And basically, insulin starts to become a poison in your blood as well. It literally starts to poison, like the cells start to go, this is really too much, man. They close down. So the cell closes down. It can't tell the pancreas to stop producing this insulin. And so the cells can't absorb anything. So literally, chocolate enables your cell to absorb. Sugar shuts down your cell and makes it literally, non-functional. And that's where you get this congregation of dead cells, which literally become tumor. I mean, it's sugar just basically equals cancer. I mean, I know that's a lot of people be like, what the fuck, man? But actually, I like to make the analogy between sugar and the fiat system as well, because they're both cheap to make, they're both easy to make, they're both quick to make, and they're both fucking addictive, right? Like governments just can't stop fucking printing money. I mean, it's just like, it's no matter who you are, then no one can resist that temptation of just creating money. And so sugar and that's what eventually destroys society. We lose, price discovery, we lose the ability to allocate capital. I mean, fiat literally destroys every kind of system that we create. We can't value things properly anymore. And same way, sugar literally destroys the cells of your body, and literally everything in your body is made of a cell. So when you start destroying those, you're basically, you're just destroying your body. So yeah, it's ironic that the sugar thing is so similar to the fiat thing, and the chocolate thing is so similar to the Bitcoin thing. It's a beautiful, I find it, I don't know, I feel it makes me feel humbled every day just realizing that somehow.
Good, right?
It's great analogy. Like the synergy is just awesome
that you'd never considered before. And more people are going to come from different angles, and they're going to be into different things, and they're going to find it in the thing that they care about.
Yeah,
that's the beauty. That's what I really love about Bitcoin, is that everyone will bring something completely unique to them and see Bitcoin in whatever they're doing somehow as well. And that's fucking profound. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, man. It's insane.
That I reckon is a great spot to end it.
I think that is part one. We'll do a part two with Roger. I want
to do a follow-up pod after your after the
workshop.
Okay. Yeah.
Let's do that.
Mate, do you want to shout out quickly? Because I know you do a pod.
The music, the BitChop Rocks,
everything.
Twitter, the Nostr, whatever you want to do.
Throw it out.
You can tell us your public key on Nostr if you can remember that. Big. I'm joking, mate. I'll put it in the notes.
Okay. Yeah. So Roger 9000, Roger __ 9000 on Twitter. Just Roger 9000 on YouTube. That's where all the Bitcoin videos are going to be. I'm doing this pod with Nozomi Hayase. She writes for Bitcoin Magazine, called Bitcoin is Love. We are trying to set up something with Izzy, actually, a Bitcoin conference in the Himalayas. With Merrick and Izzy, and I think that could be really cool.
I can just picture you guys naked on top of a mountain.
I mean, like I'm trying to.
Fuck yes, Brendo. Fuck.
Yeah.
Yes.
Awesome, man. We will have if anybody's listening interested in finding out more about Roger, all of those details will be down in the notes. Can I just land you? Can just put you on the spot and say, would you be willing to send us an MP3 or something of whatever you choose to play us out with? Would you be willing to do that?
Oh, 100%.
You do that?
100%.
Let's do it. We will. And it's brilliant as well, because that means work for Brendo. So if you choose what you would like, and I would invite everybody listening to lean into their weird and love it. Mate, I really appreciate your time. I'm really delighted to have met you, Roger. And
yes, agreed.
I don't know where this is going to go, but it's going to go somewhere fun.
Thank you, brothers. Thank you. It's been an absolute pleasure. I can't wait to do it again. Let's rock and roll. This is awesome.
Thank you, man.
Thanks, buddy.
Satoshi gave me wings. Loving Satoshi. Satoshi set us free. Satoshi's you and me. And I know they don't believe you. And I know that they can't see you. But the world has changed forever with you. Now I'm stacking Satoshi. Freaking NGU technology. I was fucking working for fiat. Now I've orange pilled myself out loud. And I don't know where you came from. No, I don't know where you went to. But the world has changed forever with you. Satoshi gave us wings. Loving Satoshi set us free. Satoshi's you